Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Ok Xoomer Zoom interviews with creative engineers and more. I'm Aaron Lichtig, Xometry guy and former Jeopardy champion, and as always, I'll be your host today. And I'm excited to be here today with Jenn Ryan. She is the Senior Vice President of Global Network Operations here at Xometry. And Jenn leads the team that serves our partner network. Previously, Jenn had a 19-year career with RR Donnelly, was a division vice president at ADP, and was an operations leader at Arvato Financial Solutions. So welcome, Jenn. It's great to have you here.
I'm really excited.
Awesome. So you do a lot of work with our partner network and Xometry's domestic operations as well as global operations. What do you think we'll see overall in terms of offshoring from the United States after COVID?
I love this question. For Cheers fans, it's like asking Cliff Clavin about the mail. This is what I live with. I think we've seen from the late 90s forward, we've seen what people talk about are these pendulum swings. It's all going to this country. Oh no, this country's better. No, home shore, near shore is better. And I think what we'll see, Aaron, is real redundancy in people's planning. So as we saw the illness move from Asia to Europe to the US, different parts of the supply chain remained healthy. And companies who had a presence in all geographies probably fared the best. So what I'd say is that I think we're going to maybe finally defeat that binary thinking, or, and really move to and. I would say we will also see that we're going to see no more of a concentration than maybe 20 or 30% offshore, but knowing that it's a really important presence in the supply chain. So that's my kind of overall answer.
What would have to happen to prevent a recurrence of some of the failures that we saw when COVID started to arise back in kind of December and January?
Sure. I think it's recognition that business continuity planning, BCP, is a science and that we all have to invest in it. So making sure that our supply chains are documented, using tools like risk registers and mitigations, and then understanding the tolerance levels that we have for our own, what we call RTO, recovery time objectives. This is something that that people like me bring to a company and that many others with my skill set can help a company do. In short, you're going to look at what are the items that are most critical to my customers, how long could I stand, whether it's inventory or backup production, how long could I stand to have a node on my, in my production line out of service, and what do I want to do about that? We, as leaders, we accept risk or we mitigate it. So I think one of the things we'll see is that we're going to document and track the supply chain for essential items and then make our plans.
Gotcha. So do you think this is the end for China-based supply chains for American companies?
100% no. And again, I appreciate the chance to reiterate that we're moving as manufacturers away from binary discussions, yes or no, into how do I integrate? So we have seen not only a very strong workforce, but an increasing manufacturing acumen in China. It's got to be part of any company's smart shoring solution. What you wouldn't want to do, and what companies who are successfully delivering product through this through this pandemic, is have a sole China solution. Further, you're going to want to understand China as a very large country like the US. The situation happening in Chicago isn't the same situation happening in Los Angeles. In the same way, the situation in Wuhan is not necessarily the situation in Shenzhen. So China is here. The skills are continuing to grow. The Chinese people managed their pandemic and are managing it very well. And smart business people will have China as an important part of, but not the sole supplier in their chain.
That's a great answer. And we hear a lot about, oh, it's going to all come back, or, oh, this is the end. But, you know, I do think that kind of moderate middle ground is where we're going to end up. Now,
Right.
switching gears a bit, you and your team work very closely with the over 3,000 partners, machine shops here in the US that are part of Xometry's network. Um, what do you think are some of the benefits and some of the drawbacks of being a part of a network like Xometry's?
I love this question because sometimes it can feel like I kind of think of it as when I'm a pedestrian, I hate cars, and when I'm a car, I hate pedestrians.
Mm.
These are balanced discussions. What we saw, and it's the strength to our customers, but also to our partners, is that a distributed network also means distributed demand. So I'll give a couple examples of where I think the strength comes from. As one sector softens, maybe automotive, if you're working with a company that has distributed demand like ours, you're going to be able to match with maybe medical devices, which has had a boost. Where often you might see that in a distributed network, hey, I'm one of several people that provide a certain kind of manufacturing, and maybe at one point you feel like you're in competition. We're also able, if you'll forgive the word, create co-opetition. So we had many big projects, important, essential projects driven by COVID that no one small or medium-sized provider could have supported, but we were able to bring 5, 10, sometimes 20 providers to the customer in a service array, coming all the way from production to finishing, and we were able to provide the supplies. That means that small business, and I am obsessed with small business, that small business can participate in deals that really weren't on the table for them before. So I took kind of a circuitous route, but I'd say that probably the things that sometimes you're like, I love being in this network, but those were the exact things that continued to deliver opportunity during this pandemic.
I love that word, co-opetition. That's pretty cool.
I think it shows that I'm a dork, like my kids would say, but co-opetition is what I think of. And we want to do more of that. It's been highly successful. And we trust our partners. We trust them. And they've shown us to be worthy of that trust. They will work with each other and share work, share supplies in ways that make you very proud to be in this industry.
That's awesome. Now, speaking of your role in this industry, you are a senior leader here at Xometry, and you're a woman in manufacturing. And often we don't see as many women at higher levels in manufacturing. Why do you think that is? And what advice would you have for the many women out there who do want to pursue an executive career in manufacturing?
You know, I've thought about this a lot because I was raised by people who worked with their hands, and my career was has been in manufacturing. I think there's a couple things. I think that we often, both women and people hiring women, we try to think through the motivations. Would this person want to work on a press? Would this person want to be in tooling? Would this person want to run a lathe? And I think we are most successful when we kind of back that up and we say, what do people really want? And Aaron, I brought a stat with me because I knew we were going to talk about this. The things that everybody wants in their job is 44% of people, and this came from a Deloitte and the Manufacturing Institute study. Sorry.
We have another guest.
We have another guest. And you know what? Everybody watching this has probably been there. That in this study, and I wanted to bring this forward. 44% of people, no matter what, want a job that has interesting assignments. 40% of people want strong pay, and 26% of people want work-life balance. Those are the top 3 things for anyone, and careers in manufacturing offer that. The other side of this, so one thing is how we approach women and how we approach the jobs. There are no more interesting problems to solve than in manufacturing, and you get to use all your skills from what you know in the trades to math to your emotional intelligence, and I'm not sure we market the jobs that way. The second thing I want to talk about are things like work-life balance. I have 4 children, and if you look at manufacturing through another lens, it can be the best work-life balance job. I spent years working the graveyard shift. And if you want to be able to do homework with your kids and put them to bed and then get them to school in the morning, manufacturing might be unique in its opportunities to balance work and family. We often assume, and I saw this through the years, that women may not want to work those hours. We're going to have the open discussion that you and I are having. The last thing I'd say is that 50% of women say that things are getting better for women in manufacturing and women in leadership, but 75% of people, men and women, say that we would be better companies and that we would have better results and approaches if we had more women. That's the stat that boosts me, because it means that we all want to figure out how to have more women. I've kind of jumped around and kind of said, hey, I think we need to market the jobs differently, right? They're really interesting jobs that happen to be in the trades. I think I then went to, hey, work-life balance can be a really interesting part of manufacturing, but you have to look through another lens. And then I want to jump over and say, probably one of the other things is that we're going to have to look at over and over, what are those obstacles? And for more men and women now, it's work-life balance doesn't mean I want to work less. It means that I need to be able to work in sprints. So something I'm talking about whenever I'm asked is that if the only way to predict success is that I would be in a chair from 8 to 5, many women and increasingly men will be counted out. But if you need somebody to be on the phone from 6 to 8, in the office from 9 to 3, and then maybe back online from 8 in the evening until 11, you might be overlooking some of the people who could really do the job. So I think my last thing, Aaron, and thank you for letting me kind of tell this winding story, is that a redefinition of work will allow many women who may or may not have children, but also many more men to participate, being both present for their family and present for their employer.
That's a great point. We do need to think about all of that differently, not just define work how it's always been defined, but define it in, I like that word you use, sprints. That it's not just about being there 9 to 5, it's about being able to do really good work at different times throughout the day.
I appreciate that. Something I have noticed about Xometry and in all the places that I've worked and been effective is that I was seen and evaluated on my outcomes. And something that we see in the literature is at times women tend to be more often evaluated for how they do their work than their work. And I think that's something that when you say advice, I have that advice for women, which is to ask for the schedule that you need. But my advice for employers would be to make sure that you are paying attention to the outcome of the work, maybe more than how it's produced.
That's great advice. Well, Jen, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been great chatting with you about a wide range of subjects.
I really enjoyed it.
Well, we'll be back soon with another episode of OK Zoomer. Thanks again for watching.